going to continue reading The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This is chapter 1. Nobody came to my 7th birthday party. There was a table laid with jellies and trifles, with a party hat beside each place, and a birthday cake with 7 candles on it at the center of the table. The original cake had a book drawn on it in icing. My mother, who had organized the party, told me that the lady at the bakery said they had never put a book on a birthday cake before, that mostly for boys it was footballs or spaceships. I was their first book. When it became obvious that nobody was coming, my mother lit 7 candles on the cake, and I blew them out. I ate a slice of the cake, as did my little sister and one of her friends, both of them attending as observers and not participants, before they fled, giggling to the garden. Party games had been prepared by my mother, but because no one was there, not even my sister, none of the party games were played, and I unwrapped the newspaper around the past parcel gift to myself, revealing a blue plastic Batman figure. I was sad nobody had come to my party, but happy I had the Batman figure, and there was another birthday present waiting to be read, a box set of the Narnia books, which I took upstairs. I lay on the bed and lost myself in the stories. I liked that. Books were safer than other people anyway. My parents had also given me the best of Gilbert and Sullivan, LP, to add to the 2 I already had. I had loved Gilbert and Sullivan since I was 3, when my father's youngest sister, my aunt, took me to see Iolith, a play filled with lords and fairies. I found the existence and nature of the fairies easier to understand than that of the lords. My aunt had died soon after, of pneumonia, in the hospital. That evening my father arrived home from work and he brought a cardboard box with him. In the cardboard box was a soft-haired black kitten of uncertain gender, whom I immediately named Fluffy, and which I loved utterly and wholeheartedly. Fluffy slept on my bed that night. I talked to it, and sometimes when my little sister was not around, half expecting it to answer in a human tongue. It never did. I did not mind. The kitten was affectionate and interested and a good companion for someone whose 7th birthday party had consisted of a table with iced biscuits and black mange and cake and 15 empty folding chairs. I do not remember ever asking any of the other children in my class at school why they had not come to my party. I did not need to ask them. They were not my friends, after all. They were just people I went to school with. I made friends slowly when I made them. I had books, and now I had my kitten. It would be like Dick Whittington and his cat, I knew, or if Fluffy proved particularly intelligent, we would be the miller's son and Puss in Boots. The kitten slept on my window and even waited for me to come home from school, sitting in the driveway in front of my house by the fence until a month later it was run over by a taxi that brought the opal miner to stay at my house. I was not there when it happened. I got home from school that day and my kitten was not waiting for me. In the kitchen was a tall, rangy man with a tan skin and a checkered shirt. He was drinking coffee at the kitchen table, and I could smell it. In those days, all the coffee was instant coffee, a bitter, dark brown powder that came out of a jar. I'm afraid I had a little accident arriving here, he told me, cheerfully. But not to worry. His accent was clipped, unfamiliar. It was the first South African accent I ever heard. He too had a cardboard box on the table in front of him. The black kitten, was he yours? He asked. It's called Fluffy, I said. Yeah, like I said, accident coming here. Not to worry. Disposed of the corpse. Didn't have to deal with it yourself. Dealt with the matter. Open the box. What? He pointed to the box. Open it, he said. The opal miner was a tall man. He wore jeans and checkered shirts, and every time I saw him, except the last, he had a thick chain of pale gold around his neck. That was gone the last time I saw him, too. I did not want to open his box. I wanted to go off on my own, and I wanted to cry for my kitten. But I could not do that if anyone else was there when watching me. I wanted to mourn. I wanted to bury my friend at the bottom of the garden, past the green grass fairy ring, to the bush cave, back past the heap of grass cuttings where nobody ever went but me. The box moved. Bought it for you, said the man. I always pay my debts. I reached out and lifted the top flap of the box, wondering if this was a joke, if my kitten would be there. Instead, a ginger face stared up at me. The opal miner took the cat out of the box. He was a huge ginger-striped tomcat, missing half an ear. He stared at me angrily. This cat had not liked being put in the box. He was not used to boxes. I reached out to stroke his head, feeling unfaithful to the memory of my kitten, but he pulled back so I could not touch him, and he hissed at me, and then stalked off to a far corner of the room, where he sat and looked and hated. There you go, cat for a cat, said the opal miner, and he ruffled my hair with his leathery hand. Then he went out into the hall, leaving me to the kitchen with the cat who was not my kitten. The man put his head back through the door. He's called Monster, he said. It felt like a bad joke. I propped open the kitchen door so the cat could get out. Then I went up to the bedroom, lay on my bed, and cried for dead Fluffy. When my parents got home that evening, I do not think my kitten was even mentioned. Monster lived with us for a week or more. I put cat food in the bowl for him in the morning and again at night as I had for my kitten. He would sit out by the back door until I or someone else let him out. We saw him in the garden, slipping from bush to bush in the trees or in the undergrowth. We could trace his movements by the dead blue tits or in thrushes we would find in the garden, but we saw him rarely. I missed Fluffy. I knew you could not simply replace something alive, and I dared not grumble to my parents about it. They would have been baffled at my upset. After all, if my kitten had been killed, it had also been replaced. The damage had been made up. It all came back, even as I knew it would not. It all came back, and even as it came back, I knew it would not be for long. All the things I remembered, sitting on the green bench beside the little pond that Letty Hemstock had once convinced me was an ocean.